First of all, thank you very much for the honor of the honorary directorship. And I'm sorry my wife isn't here. She's covering the grandchildren's cello concert this afternoon. But I'm sure she'd appreciate it too. Thank you very much. We do this every year. We've been doing it for a number of years. And just so we notice at the beginning, certainly our logo, our new logo, which includes the gas lights and has a few buildings that are on it. It's something that a whole bunch of members of the board contributed different ideas about and actually haggled a little bit about it. But I think we came out with something that does seem like our look. So let me proceed now to get into the awards. The gate there we'll all recognize from the House of the Four Winds, kind of an iconic thing in town. And these are our awards for this year. Oh, and by the way, I should point out that all this is not because I didn't do this. I couldn't possibly do all this. This is Peter Coutant made this wonderful PowerPoint for us. And there are over 230 homeowners, businesses, organizations, architects, and landscape architects that have made a commitment to preservation, which we have to just think about. How many people have worked on this? And you can see some of the examples here. Now, the categories are always, need to be reminded, there are 5 categories. We're going to have 4 of them active here today. Rehabilitation, that's what many of us think of as remodeling, renovation, but following as much as possible the standards of the Department of Interior for making for continuity for the property. Infill, now one place that I called to say they'd won the award, and I left a message and they called back and said, "You have landfill?" And we're, what? And I said, no, that's new construction. It's for new construction, it's not landfill. And it means compatible new construction that fits into the community. Then preservation would be ideally the highest thing, which means that it hasn't changed and you've maintained it. And everybody knows that in our climate, maintaining it isn't just easy. So that's for that. And restoration is bringing it back to the way it looked at an earlier stage for an historic property. Reconstruction, nothing burned down. We didn't have to rebuild it this year, so we're happy about that. So let me proceed into the first place. This is the property at 611 East Illinois Road. The owners are Zach Jacobs and Stephanie Caparelli, and their original builder is attributed as Alex Kelly around 1918, or about 100 years ago, in 1920 or so. The house is a small cottage. It looked quite different until fairly recently, and it now has gone back to its original stucco that it was. And so now let me just show you one more thing here about it. Not really the car, although that's kind of nifty too. As you'll see on the right, there is a picture of a house. This is from a book from 1913 by Herman von Holst, who did a lot of work on the North Shore, did a lot of work for Samuel Insull over in Libertyville, actually. But in the book, there's this house shown, which is quite a similar arts and craft cottage. It's hard to see, I think, the plan of the first floor, which is on the left below, but that shows that this is a really form kind of plan. It's an open plan. There's an ingle nook in the center behind the front door, right up there with the fireplace, and it blends naturally from the dining room into the living room. So it wasn't a big house originally, but as the side view shows, it's grown a little bit toward the rear. The lines there, it could be Alex Kelly, it could be some architects maybe in town too, but this is something that's been maintained and still here after 100 years. So that's that place, and so now we can call forward the owners, Zach Jacobs and Stephanie Caparelli.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
If we're going to take some pictures right over there, if you don't mind going over to the one. Just keep on going.
Okay, sure. That was a small house. This is an older house. It's over 100 years originally. Probably begun about 1894, finished 1896. It's at the end of Illinois Road, but the address is 1 Stonegate Lane. This house was originally Henry Ives Cobb did the building using lumber left over from the 1893 World's Fair. Waste not, want not. That was the arts and crafts idea. The house was then redone very soon in the early 1900s by James Gamble Rogers, who was the son-in-law of the next owners, the Albert and Fanny Day, and it was owned by several people in the 20th century, but certainly notably would be the James Douglas Juniors, and also I remember the John and Louise Bross, who lived there in the 70s. Now the house has been by the lake right here for a long time. If you have a house near the lake and trees hanging over it maybe for many of the years, you end up having issues from it never drying out. And so here you see the house had issues. This is pictures from 2010. New owners had started working on it, and it was like trying to take a sweater and fix a little thing, and pretty soon you have a pile of yarn. Well, they had done this. The city became concerned about how much they were taking out, so the work was stopped. It was purchased by the current owners now, who've worked on it and brought it back to something like it should be. So that shows that there were issues about the architecture there originally. You can see the wing is a little bit too large for scale for the house, and it's been brought down in the new one. It also has brick on the exterior, which is a little bit less likely to be affected by the moisture, so that makes it sturdier there. So it's really a very substantial house, and we can see here, there's more about what it looked like. Changing. Look at how nice it looks now and back. And the beach was a big problem. And so the work has been done to terrace that so that it's good. So the owners are Mr. and Mrs. Jakubowski, and they are to be commended for this major, highly visible project for Lake Forest. Thank you very much. And Diana Melikar, her architect, their architect. So that was a huge project, and it took a long time, and now it's in perfectly wonderful shape. The next is very different. It's also an historic structure, but of a different type. This happens to be the Woodlands Academy of the Sacred Heart Chapel. This is the south view, and it is not a pyramid. Rather, it is, the original architects were Lobel, Schloss, and Bennett in 1961. So it's over 50 years old, making it historic by the standards. And it has an aluminum siding, and these are some different pictures to give you an idea of the angles of it. So from the sides, this is from the west side, but also on the east side, on the big picture is the west side, but the lower picture shows it on the east side. There's a sort of slash of the windows letting in light morning and evening very appropriately. And you can see a little bit more of the scale when you see the building that's next to it. These were all done in 1961, international style buildings. This building is also, it looks to me like it's a little bit of a prelude or looking forward to deconstructionists, the way the angles are such that they are. It also reminds me of some modern projects of the period. In the lower right is Frank Lloyd Wright's Unitarian Society near Madison in Wisconsin. He did church there. And above it is Le Corbusier's 1955 Notre Dame en Haut in France that he did. And then the larger picture is around 1960, the Air Force Academy Chapel with, notice the metal again and the angles. That was done by Walter Netsch of Skidmore, Owings and Merrill here in Chicago. And I just might mention that building must have been in the works at the Air Force Academy when James Douglas was in Washington, D.C., and he was at one point Secretary of the Air Force and then Assistant Secretary or Deputy or something, a Secretary of Defense. So it may have had a Lake Forest angle there. So I would like to ask Margaret Steele, who is the head of school, to come forward and accept the award for Woodlands. Next project. Now we're going back to an older one again. This is a house. It's over 100 years old. It's 1050 North Green Bay Road. This was on our tour in the fall, and it's a big house. It's a shingle-style house, owned now by Arthur and Peggy Woods of Lake Forest, and their architect around 1910-11 was William Warren, it had an addition on the right. You can just see a little bit of it on the right there, by Anderson and Tickner in the late 20s. And what's remarkable is it sits on a very large property. We can't really see it all here, but it looks very much like it did originally. Now here's a picture that appeared at the time of publication, and I'll just go back and forth a little bit so you can see. The window, you can't see on the far right there isn't the addition. The porch is now enclosed as it is today, and there are some bigger windows on the second floor. But very much the same. And also, it has a Craig Bergman garden, and it has a wall that goes all around it, a big masonry wall. It was worked on by Harry T. Lindeberg a little bit, but mostly by the Anderson and Tickner firm. And those are Virginia creepers all over the wall, which gives it kind of a well lived in feeling. And I believe Peggy Woods Peggy's here.
Very much.
Thank you, Peggy. So this is a preservation award. So this is keeping a house essentially the same for over 100 years, which is remarkable in our community. So the Church of St. Mary, that's about the same age. It was built in 1910. The architect was Henry Lord Gay, and they've been doing some restoration work here. The exterior of the building, we can see there are wonderful stained glass windows that have been restored. The outer glass, the protective glass that was put in in the mid-century has deteriorated, and so new, much more sympathetic looking glass has been put in. The front of the building, which had some variations in color from different periods of work and tending to, has been regularized. And it's just a marvelous building. The old picture shows it too, that it's a basic Gothic church form. Looks a lot like the 1909 Presbyterian Church, also by Frost and Granger in Highland Park, but it has definite Roman characteristics. It has, we also think of those as Georgian features, but the round Roman arch windows have a keystone inside. At the edges of each side there are stones, and then there's a little round window with the same features. These are things that you'll also see on Carpenter's Hall and the Independence Hall in Philadelphia. So I think there was an emphasis on expressing how this was a very American Roman Catholic church here, and it's just a stunning building that's been maintained beautifully, and we thank all the congregation and especially the architect for the restoration. Mr. Frank Klepich is here, and we have Father Nasius, Mike Nasius, and the Director of Buildings and Grounds, Bill Gorinsky. I think they're present. Is that right?
You want to come up?
Yeah, come on down. Now, this is a new house. This is compatible new construction on Lake Road at the corner, on the northwest corner of Westminster, right smack dab close to the lake in the center of town. Some interesting things about this house. Notice the walls in front. It was only maybe a decade ago that it was given approval to remove the walls from the, I guess we'd call it new formalist house that I.W. Colbert had built for himself. That was, it came down in stages. The first stage came down, I think, in the 70s. That was sort of teetery up at the top. But then the walls were still there, but they were having problems. And here we see this is sort of a little bit in the same vein. The house is, notice the size of the windows. They're not large. Often we see new houses that have lots of large windows. These are modest-sized windows to let in the light, but not to overdo the picture window effect. Another thing, and Laura Luce I think she pointed this out to me, there's a certain resemblance to her house, the second Clough house by David Adler, 1927. The architect Steve Rugo has done a number of compatible houses around the area, along close to the lake, and this just adds to his the array of these. And Lorna and Miles Marsh, who are recidivists here because they had worked on also 965 East Deer Path, which is a gem too. So we thank all of the architect, the owners, for your wonderful efforts, and keep going. And infill, but new construction compatible. Think that way. Don't think landfill. No. So please come forward. Steve Ruggles. He's not here, I guess.
Thank
no.
you.
Another house. This house is on a. That one was on a. It was a careful placement. The last house. This is also new construction, compatible. It's in a different setting entirely. It's in a country setting out on Laurel Avenue, 287 West Laurel. To the east, there's a big open field that used to be the Sturtevant estate before I even got here. It's now open lands. And to the west, there's a great big long. It goes to open lands and across, and you just see a little peak of Lake Forest Hospital sticking up above, at least before the buds come out. This house is a product of Northworks Architects and planners in 2015. The owners are Catherine and Matthew Frecco, and they have a beautiful Connecticut-style house. I grabbed a couple of pictures of Connecticut farmhouse-type places just to show some elements that they picked up. Notice the stone is at the center, which is for hierarchy of form. That's where it belongs, at the heart of the house. And then the wings are frame. And if you look at the bottom one, it's got wings that are a similar relationship to the main block. All of them have the same kind of little portico in front. And this stone is involved in all of them. So this house has a marvelous setting. It's beautifully done. It fits in perfectly, nicely arranged. Everything is in place, and we're delighted to have it part of our community and done so perfectly. So we'd like to honor the Freckos and their architect, Austin Dupre. Lake Forest Hospital. Now you say, okay, this is what a question came up. Somebody on the phone couldn't figure out what I was saying. They thought I said landfill, but it wasn't. It wasn't landfill. It's really, we should say, compatible construction, because at one point, Northwestern had wanted to build a taller building there, and so they went along with the ideas that came up from the neighborhood. Clark Pelly, the architects. On their website, describe the building. It's 450,000 square feet, and it's built into the prairie on 160 acres. So it fits. It's in the neighborhood. If you'll see that kind of red brick with probably compatible, the masonry in between, the word isn't coming to me right now, but yes, mortar is the same color, and you'll see that if you look carefully at the train station on June 10th. You'll see some similar thing there. There's limestone accenting, and there is also metal used and glass, which are things that are used elsewhere in town. This is, okay, this one I'll just show here. That's a look from down below on the lower level, looking up toward the dome in the building, at the center of the building. Very striking view, really classic kind of space. Then once the metal is emphasized again on the looking out from the building, you see there's a balcony outside for people. On a day that's a little warmer than today, it's very comfortable. And at the bottom, that's just to show that, again, modern architecture is not new. We saw it with the Woodlands Chapel, going clear back to 1961. This is in the bottom, on the lower right here, is the Moore Student Center by Steve Wright here in Lake Forest, done in 2006. It's got many of the same kinds of lines. They didn't have 160 acres to work with there, but this building on 160 acres is quite stunning. I think it's amazing that we have a building of this stature. I think if you go to the architect's website, it says their slogan is something like the world's most recognizable buildings. And I think that if we think of like the Petronas Tower in Malaysia and some other places, they do some very notable buildings, and it's an honor to have one of our Lake Forest buildings on their website as their new projects. So we'd like to call Mr. Seamus Collins, who's the Vice President for Operations at Lake Forest Hospital. So I think all of these are on totally different scales, totally different purposes, some of them, but they all have something in common, that they fit into where they are. They are nicely proportioned for their settings, and I'll go back to that nice waterfall. I think that's the kind of waterfall Louis XIV might have had if he could have afforded it. But they didn't have some of the kinds of power that we have today, you realize. Yes, right. He needed a few inventions to make it possible. So these places are just, I think, a stunning collection altogether. And we were delighted to honor all the people here. Thank you to our judges also. And thank you to all of the members of the foundation who support this effort to have these honors every year, and to the homeowners that make it possible and property owners that make it possible. Thank you very much.